Sounds each and every senator in this floor. This matter has to do with our meeting of yesterday, which was a closed-door meeting, which was not an open meeting. This morning, Mr. President, I was surprised to find that on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, there was a headline that says, IPOB senators query Abaribe over Kanu'S bail. Mr. President, we have always said on this floor that anytime we have a closed-door session, that it is only what the presiding officer says after the closed-door session that is the sum total of our discussion. And I remember that yesterday, 3 points were made as a result of our discussion, which was Nigeria's unity and also the effort by this Senate to make sure that we help in bringing peace to this country. A headline that purports to say that this was what happened in our closed-door session, which of course did not happen, does not in any way advance the cause of peace in this country. My constituents have been worried. They have called me, and they have been asking me, and I've told them that it is not true, and that I will bring it up on the floor and ask this entire Senate to please help us to ask Daily Trust to be able to produce whoever gave them this erroneous and misleading information. The Senate does not query anybody or any of its members. That is the first place where they failed in casting this headline. Of course, the rest of what happened, each and every senator here knows what we discussed and how we discussed and what we came out as the end of our deliberation. So I wish to be given the opportunity to lay this newspaper comes out in there, but I know that God will not allow them to go ahead with their nefarious entities.
All right, but lay the paper, please. Well, distinguished colleagues, this is again responsibility in the way they do their work. And then publishing rumors will not help us in any way. So I just want to appeal to our pressmen and women to find it in their hearts, ensure that whatever they do will be within the highest degree of responsibility. And I am sure that all of us know that no such thing happened during our closed-door session. And to our colleagues, I believe that closed-door session should be closed-door session. Whatever happens there should end there. And whatever is reported as the outcome of that closed-door session should be the official position of the Senate, unless the spokesperson of the Senate indeed gives further clarification. Outside that, any other thing should be regarded as rumor. So I just want to appeal that we maintain some level of responsibility in reporting what transpires in both the closed-door session and indeed in all our sessions, so that the Nigerians will also know that both the press and the parliament are working together in the best interest of our country. So it's well noted, Abaribe. So I'm referring it to the Committee of Ethics of our Committee on Ethics to investigate what happened. Senate Leader.
Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, the country is not short of recommendations in terms of what do we do, how do we get it right. We're about to get more of it. Mark, back.
Well, you do know, Chairman, we have been on this topic for quite a while, and we're getting another perspective on it this morning. Joining us now to discuss this is Senator NNAMDI Abaribe, who is the Chairman, Senate Committee on Mining, Power and Metallurgy. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, Mokwe.
I'm sure you must have been very busy during the recess. Abia State was in the news. What was going on in your constituency?
Well, I guess everyone in Nigeria knows what happened. My constituency was invaded by soldiers. A lot of altercations between the people who were agitating for a different Nigeria and the soldiers who decided that they would take no prisoners, let's put it that way. So we were all very busy.
You considered it an invasion. Some people would say, is it a separate territory?
Well, let's put it this way. When a military force comes in without any invitation by anybody on ground, I'm talking about the governors and the civil populace, and all of a sudden there's a whole lot of people who come in bearing arms, subjecting people to all manners of indignities. I don't know which other word you would call it.
The Commander-in-Chief needs an invitation to be able to go to a state?
Nope. The Commander-in-Chief said, not just the Commander-in-Chief, the Army said that they were going to conduct an exercise. And they put a date for to conduct that exercise. And that date was the 15th of September. On the 11th, there was this whole influx, which means it's about 4 days or 5 days before then. So what else are you going to say? You're going to actually assume that it wasn't part of the exercise. I remember also at that time that I called the police commissioner when people were calling me and saying, this is what is going on here. And the police commissioner told me, oh no, everything is calm, we don't have any problem. So I assumed, and I think also the reports had it, that when the Army was interrogated to say, why would you do this? They said, oh, we are testing repaired military vehicles and all that. And of course we asked.
That was what the Army said?
Yes. Just take all the timeline.
I had the privilege of interviewing the Chief of Defense Staff, and I said that was a statement released by the police. Yeah. I mean, that was what the police said. The Army said they were doing. He said he's not aware of that statement, and that's not what he was told on the ground. But nevertheless, I mean, I think the controversy will continue. We've moved past that now. The federal government has prescribed IPOB.
Yes.
It doesn't sound like something that the Southeast Senate caucus is supporting. Is that right?
Of course.
You don't support it?
We don't support it. We think that it was an overkill. We think that it was giving a dog a bad name to hang it. Because we felt that, first of all, there are procedures that you use to go towards proscription. It wasn't followed. It was after the fact of proscription that the procedures were now followed. And we felt that you don't walk.
Implications for profiling of all Southeasterners.
Yes.
Then some people will argue and say it was the same concern raised by certain people when Boko Haram was about to be proscribed and declared a terrorist organization.
Yes.
There were fears that all Northerners, not just Northeasterners now, will be branded as terrorists and profiled as such. But wasn't their fear at the end of the day unfounded?
So let's ask ourselves another question, Mawbe, and that is, why was the people in this government also against? It was the same fear, not so. That's what you're saying. But I'm telling you that when an unarmed organization whose avowed interest has been in non-violent agitation, okay, just get this big hammer. And we have also looked at the reasons given. And look at the reasons given. One, that they tried to snatch guns. Tried to snatch guns from the military. Assuming that that is correct, can you juxtapose that with a Fulani herdsman that went to Agatu and killed more than 500 people, or went to Nibo and killed 500 or more in Enugu State? This is not trying to snatch. It is now and then somebody from this same government sits on this chair and says, oh, that is criminal. That's not terrorism. And you want people from the southeast to feel that they are a legitimate part of this country, treated fairly and equally. The real issue for us is that, and we made it very clear, is that what everybody wants is a Nigeria that is fair to all. Not a Nigeria in which you will classify some people in a different way and some other people in a much different way.
Well, we do know that this, classification has also raised quite a number of criticism, and also has also raised a number of questions and reactions. There are people who do not see things from how you've explained it. They also think that in terms of the actions that IPOB was, raising and the manner in which it went about its agitations, it had potential for the unity of this country.
So I agree with you. So let us now ask a simple question. The potential is what you overkill by prescribing them as a terrorist organization.
You don't agree
then
with them?
At the same time, no, our problem is simple. At the same time, people have visibly done things that have actually impacted on the unity of this country by murdering their fellow citizens. And some people here in this country told us, I think a northern governor told us that he actually had to go to another country to negotiate with these people. Negotiate so that they don't come killing again. And then just a few people who haven't killed anybody, who haven't done anything, but because they have the potential of doing so, you now turn around and say they are terrorists, with all the implications for being classified as so. Hell no. We as the Southeast Caucus, we just felt this is not right.
I find it interesting that in your statement you say that we condemn the use of hate speeches and remarks by anybody, as the dignity of human persons must be respected at all times, even while dissenting on any issue.
Precisely.
Who are you talking to?
We're talking to everybody in Nigeria.
Not IPOB.
Plus IPOB. We had a meeting, the Southeast senators, Ohaneze, and the Southeast governors a month before that. And we all came and did a communique in which we said we condemned in all entirety this use of uncouth and foul language. We said that. The point is really what we see, which is also the same type of profiling that we have. We do things, and there's a glossing over of whatever we do. We try to talk to the people who are doing the agitation to tell them to tamp down, and then we're told, oh, you're consulting with those who are doing agitations. And the point is this. If the Southeast Caucus meets with the IPOB members in order to find peace, would you now say that it is support? If the governors meet with IPOB like they did twice or so, will you now say that they are supporting IPOB? No. You can't have peace without talking to the people who are also causing the disruption.
One last one before we move to, because all of this ties into, the general agitations in the country for restructuring and fairness and equity. Now we're saying that IPOB is suing the Chief of Army Staff and asking for the whereabouts of NNAMDI Kanu. But we did hear, I think it was the presidential spokesperson who said we should ask you.
One of the very, very unfortunate things here is that you come here, you try to personalize issues. When you don't have an answer, then you try to either abuse somebody or try to personalize it. So I wouldn't bother to, talk about whether
you don't
the
think any
president
applications for that? You stood shorty for him.
Yes, I stood shorty for him. But now put it in perspective. He's supposed to appear in court on the 17th of October.
Which is a few days
Then
away.
1 month prior to his appearance in court, on the 14th of September, clearly 1 month before, the army now invaded his house, his father's house, his village, and since then nobody has heard from him. And then somebody comes here who sent the army there 1 month before. They didn't wait until he had his day in court. It was if they had waited and then his day in court came and he didn't show up, then you can say, oh, we're looking for him. Somebody went 1 month earlier and all that. What do you expect would be the result of that invasion? So
you don't think he'll be held responsible anymore for
why should I be? Well, the point really is, Maukwe, let me also pose this question to you and other Nigerians. He's supposed to be in court in a month's time. We show up today trying to grab him or whatever, or we don't know whether he's dead, or because I hear that they've gone to court seeking for his whereabouts. Would you now hold me liable for what is supposed to happen in 17 days or 18 days' time? So I think that at the end of the day, I don't even want to, because this is a sub judice.
Interestingly, the Senate, when they resumed, went into an executive session. We do know that the Senate president had separate meetings with leaders of the Southeast Caucus and also leaders of the Northern Caucus, I believe. And then, when the Senate resumed, there was an executive session, unlike the House of Representatives, where it was more open. The Speaker spoke. Why do you think the Senate had to go into an executive session immediately upon resumption?
Usually we do executive sessions when there are matters of urgent importance. We build consensus. We talk with each other frankly. We now come out with a common position. That is why we are the Senate. That's why we are the upper chamber. We don't want to ventilate our discussions, which has to do with critical national issues in public, because when you have the camera in front of somebody, they might want to go overboard, and when they go overboard, it inflames tempers and all that. So we try to reach we reached a consensus, and that consensus, of course, we are in the three steps that the Senate president listed out. And the most critical one, of course, for us was the fact that the Senate will take all measures, all avenues to be able to bring peace and lasting peace to all parts of the country where there is agitation. The unfortunate thing, of course, is that because we're focusing on the Southeast, it now looks as if that is where the agitations are. No, there's agitations all over the place, which I'm sure you know. And that is the reason for the recent clamor by all parts of Nigeria, by eminent Nigerians, that this union is very shaky and there is need for us to shore up the foundations of this union, let's put it that way.
Senate seeks an avenue to make sure peace is restored in all parts of Nigeria, and then they also say all groups seeking to achieve agitation should do through constitutional means.
Precisely.
What does that mean then for all the groups that are, we've heard from the Southern Leaders of Thought, we've heard from the Southern Leaders Forum, we've heard also from Ohanese, we're hearing also from the Southeast Senators Caucus. What exactly are your colleagues from the North saying?
They're very supportive of the fact that the agitations and all that must be looked into, and they must be looked into, and they're also supportive of the fact that we call on everybody that you should use the constitutional means of doing your agitations. And that nobody is against that. That is why it came out as our communique.
Constitutional means what? Because some people say that the changes that this country needs, the moves that it needs to make to be able to restructure cannot be done through the National Assembly. In fact, some groups believe that we need an entirely new constitution, and as such, that is totally outside the limits of the National Assembly. Precisely.
Let's put it this way, too. There is already a National Assembly in place. There's already a constitution in place. So that means that there are also avenues within the constitution for you to be able to have discussions with various parts and various groups. That is why you have representatives. You understand? Those who say, oh, it cannot be done under this, I think that they probably are also those who have lost faith in Nigeria. I don't think. We believe that there are still possibilities for us to be able to get to where we want to go under this constitution. That is why we also have things called constitutional amendment. If there is an aspect that is not there in the constitution, for example, the only place where there's a referendum in the constitution is when you have a creation of states. But suppose you want a referendum on other things that don't have to do with that, then that means we have to amend the constitution to insert that provision. And once we all agree, then that goes ahead. It's just a question of each and every one of us agreeing that this is the best way forward. And how do you do that? You're going to do it by discussions, by interactions, by deliberations, and by consensus building. Some people will say that the House of Reps seem to be more progressive than the Senate in that regard, in terms of consensus building. If you look at, for instance, their vote on the devolution of power, they nearly got two-thirds majority. Looking at their numbers, 210 of them voted yes, and just 71 voted no. If you look at the figures in the Senate, you have 46 voting yes and 48, even more, voting no. Yes. So what do you think is responsible for that disparity seen between both chambers of National Assembly? Well, maybe the level of information that people have. The point, and I have to make this very clear to Nigerians, there's this feeling that restructuring, devolution of powers and those ones means that you're essentially taking away from a particular part of the country their inbuilt advantages that came through the type of constitution that we have. And therefore, any attempt to juggle with it means, oh, you're going to deprive us of maybe revenue, maybe power, maybe, and all that. But the fact is that that's not it. I think what restructuring, to my own mind, means is changing the structure of this country such that the component units that make up the country do not continue along this path of what, for a better word, somebody described as a feeding bottle democracy, and actually bring a democracy that people contribute, compete with each other, make their best way forward. And those from the northern part of the country who feel that, we're going to be poorer and all that, actually are going to be the richest part of the country. And I'll tell you why. Simply put, in the next 10 to 20 years, there will be no more use for oil. That is happening. Countries are now moving away from fossil fuels to this. And so, but people must eat. Agriculture is going to be the next frontier, just like it used to be for Nigeria. And where do you really have this? It's the same. No, that's where you have the land, you have everything. So let's just put it this way. Take a country like Netherlands. Netherlands is smaller than Niger State. Niger State is bigger than Netherlands, twice the size of Netherlands. But Netherlands exports agricultural products to the tune of about $180 billion. I don't think Nigeria has gotten up to $100 billion from oil. So you could see the potentials that are there when we harness ourselves properly and move away from this contraption that is today that makes everybody feel that you just have to work for a center that is overloaded, overbloated, and very difficult to manage.
Would you agree that at the heart of all of this is the talk of oil?
There's not, at the heart of the feeding bottle economy is proceeds from oil. That one is, and that's what we want to change. We want to say, let's move to a knowledge-based economy. Let's move to, and just put it this way. I will just give you one more example, and that is.
Well, distinguished, I'm afraid, let's quickly take a moment now. I'll let you finish and wrap up your thoughts when we return from this break. Please stay with us. NNAMDI Abaribe is still with us in the studio. Distinguished, just before we went on that break, you were saying that you were explaining whether you thought that this problem was about oil and its issues.
Yes, I was trying to just give you an example, and I said 10 years ago, the top 10 companies in the world with the largest revenues were oil companies, Shell, Texaco, and so forth. But today, the top 10 companies are technology companies, Google, and so forth. So you now see that we're actually moving away from, fossil-based things.
That's the world is moving away.
The world is moving away.
But not Nigeria.
We're sitting here, and this whole conversation and this whole thought we're doing is, how do we share what is coming from? When that dries up, and we're just asking Nigerians that it is time for us to think beyond today. Think beyond today.
Do you think that if we did not have to share, because for some people they think it's about the sharing. If we did not have to share, there'd be no talk of equity. Do you think that this conversation about restructuring wouldn't be so loud?
If you have about what some people say, they say go back to the 1963 Constitution.
Yeah,
why?
You've heard that.
The reason why they say go back to the 1963, at that time there was no conversation about sharing. It was about what do you contribute to the center, and there was so much competition between the different component parts of Nigeria at that time, and that is what you can see part of the conversation is going, because they understand that part of this whole thing just has nothing else to do but for people who do not think that they need to move away from their comfort zone.